Hey, g'day guys. Had a man send me some files from his Link ECU running as 1UZ. He wants me to go over it. So I've got, it looks like it's going to be a G4 Plus. I'm going to open the file. Excuse me. I downloaded it this morning. Looks like that one there. Looks like it's Kaleb's. Yep. This is the setup he's got. He's brought a loom from the USA. He's installed the loom and it's not running quite like it should. He also sent me a log file. I'll just go open log file at the top here, eh? And again, I downloaded it this morning. It looks like that one. Okay, one of the very first things I do in this sort of job, once I've opened up the log file and I've opened up the tune, is I pop in and I actually save a copy in my computer. Oh, that's better, eh? Let me just do that. I'll come back to you in just a moment once that's done. Right, the very first thing I need to do is familiarize myself with the map. So yep, we'll look at the fuel system. What do we got? Fuel setup and the main. It's on traditional, 22 milliseconds. Okay. Okay, and that doesn't look like a good AFR target table. So I think we're going to bin that and I'll copy and paste in one of my own ones. Who runs a turbocharged vehicle at 0.87? Well, so we'll do that shortly. Set up and map. So I normally prefer to set up the fuel table in KPA or in manifold gauge pressure, and that compensates better for altitude. So we might look at changing that as well. The timing map doesn't look like anything special, but it looks okay. It looks like it would run a 1UZ just fine. Do we have an RPM limit? We have a map limit, just in case it's boosted. Don't really need that. And it's only going to rev to 3000 RPM. It's got a rev limit of 3000 RPM. That's a little bit strange, isn't it? So we can probably put a better rev limit in there. Auxiliary outputs. So we got a fan and a fuel pump, tacho, and there's a spare output somewhere. So we don't. I was going to say we don't have an ECU hold, but we could have ECU hold on auxiliary. Okay, so it must have a set of coils on it, because all the ignition outputs are used for coils, and I'm thinking this must have a storm on it. I probably should check that, eh? Just wait right there. Right, it is looking very much like a storm. So we've got no reset on the stepper wired, idle stepper control. Key off. So the stepper's set to key off, but there's no settings for holding the stepper on. It doesn't seem to have that wired. What I'm talking about here is the way the ECU's powered up. So I go, for example, we've got the wiring information here. We pop up in here, and I should be able to drop this down, and we should do power supply, ECU hold power wiring. So this is here where you use an output like this to hold the main relay on, and that means that the ECU stays on for a few seconds after you turn the key off, and then that allows the stepper motor to reset. So I will talk to Kaleb about that and see if he's having any problems with that stepper motor resetting. I think one answer for the meantime, because it doesn't seem to be there, I'm going to have a bit more of a search. No, definitely not wired in the auxiliary outputs, and it's definitely not wired. Injectors are all used, and ignition are definitely all used. So it's definitely not got an ECU hold function wired. So I would start with this one to key on, and then I would put a lockout on it so you can't crank it, so the stepper motor can actually reset for 3 seconds. Let's have a look at those stepper numbers, and see how close they are, because I would expect it to go out to about 100. Those numbers look nowhere near correct. Okay. So what I do here with the idle setup is I set them a little bit high to begin with, and then I'll drop it down once I've improved the tune. Trying to bring an engine that's set up on an aftermarket ECU to go straight into idling at 750 can be a bit tricky. So I start 900 to 1000. Once I've improved the rest of the numbers, I will then start bringing it down. So I've got some changes to make. Kaleb, I want to know about the stepper, what's going on there, and I'll talk to you about that soon. And so I'm going to smash some new numbers in for those bits and pieces, and then we will come back and I'll start looking at some logging. I probably should say that I haven't looked at these numbers before. This is the first time I'm going through them in this video at the same time as you guys are seeing this as well. Righto, I've popped in some new fuel tables, I've put in a new timing table, I've changed the idle speed control, and I'm looking, I had just a glance over the logging, and I thought I'd better go back and look at some auxiliary inputs. Auxiliary analog inputs. So we've got a fuel pressure sensor, we've got an oil pressure sensor, and we've got a lambda. He did mention he had a wideband, and here's the calibration. It's on calibration 5, so that's what it should be. And I thought I'd better just jot down quickly and look at the trigger setup. So it's on a standard 1UZFE, and I went to the calibrate file, and you'll see here 355, which if we go over to this one, that's a base file. I'll just grab another file for a Sylvia that I did. So if you get, I always look at the triggers for the timing to see how close they are to what they're meant to be as far as the factory setup or the factory link numbers. And if I go down to this one, here's my triggers, calibrate. You'll see on my offset's 355. But mine, the timing came up at 10 degrees. That's where it should be. Should be 355 on the offset if you're running individual coils, and I think from memory this has got K20 coils on it, and the timing should be sitting at 10. Okay, so if I go over to this one, the timing's sitting at 15. So Kaleb, I want a timing light on this engine, get it running, and I'm expecting that to be at 10 degrees to give you the correct numbers. Okay, to give it 15, this should be 5 degrees different. So very, very important. Basic setup, calibrate the map sensor. So we go up here, map sensor calibration, do that. TPS setup, calibrate the TPS, get that right, and set your base timing. Non-negotiable, must be done on every setup. Okay, I'm actually just going to change this because I think it's wrong. It should be at 10. Done. Wait, and whenever you do this, it catches me quite a bit. I think I'd learned by now, eh? 10, press enter. Press done. Recheck 10 degrees. File. Save as. Oh no, I just need to save it. File. Save. Okay, so looking at some logging. Oh, and I've done the rev limits. Move them up. If we look over here at logging, I've got 12 minutes of logging. Got some map sensor happening. Okay, I've only got a little bit of log here. It wasn't even fully warmed, but you see here, very lean. Fuel pressures, it shows as being very up and down, but it actually isn't over a big range. Not too concerned the air yet, and not really revving high. Engine health, battery voltage. You see it's got these spikes when it drops to idle, and this is a starting points here, here, here. It coincides, excuse me again, with turning off of the engine. That's, you're cranking it, try to start it. It's giving that battery a hard time. Very cold. 5 degrees air temps. Okay, so, and not much vacuum, so really running poorly. Don't think that's enough really for me to work with. I'm going to flick a map over to Kaleb. Got some questions. Let's see if we can get this thing running better. I'm going to call it quits for this one. He'll do a bit of an adjustment. See what's on his list. Calibrate the map sensor. Calibrate the TPS, check that's good. Timing light on it, check that timing. He's going to talk to me about that idle speed. If necessary, at the moment, just blank the idle stepper off, the inlet to the stepper. Crank up the revs a little bit, just put like a feeler gauge or something underneath the stopper. Get the engine warm. Check some mixtures, get some idle mixture happening. Okay? And you can set base idle. At that point you do the throttle stop, bring the throttle stop up. Make it so it idles at 800 RPM, 750. Without the stepper, without any controls. Okay? And then get me a good log. I want a few minutes of at least idling and revving. Hopefully it'll rev now with my new map that I've put in. So hope that's been helpful. And we'll talk to you again soon once we've progressed with this job.